Welcome to the Deep Dive. Our mission is pretty simple. We take your sources, articles, notes, whatever you've got to dive in, and pull out the really compelling ideas for you.
And today, we're jumping into a really fascinating set of short stories. I mean, these are tales about characters facing just extraordinary situations, really tough choices,
Uh-huh.
and bumping up against realities that are just, well, way stranger than they ever thought possible.
And through these stories, we're aiming to pull out some key nuggets, insights about how we see things, about ambition, love, duty,
Right.
and just those completely unexpected ways the universe, or maybe just fate, kind of messes with our plans.
Yeah, definitely. Our sources, the texts we're digging into, include bits from The Door in the Wall, The Star, The Cone, A Moonlight Fable, The Diamond Maker, Lord of the Dynamos, and The Country of the Blind. Quite a mix.
It is. So get ready. We're going to unpack some surprising stuff drawn from these fictional worlds. And maybe, just maybe, you'll end up seeing your own world a little differently by the end. Let's dive in.
Absolutely. Let's kick off with The Door in the Wall. So this story focuses on a guy named Lionel Wallace. He's this super successful politician right on the edge of getting a cabinet job. We hear his story through his friend Redmond. And Wallace admits, despite all this success, he's haunted by something that he says rather takes the light out of things.
And what's really striking is it's not some ghost story, is it? It's all tied back to a childhood memory.
Exactly. When he was, 5 or 6, he found this green door in a white wall, walked through it.
And found this enchanted garden.
Yeah, and the way he describes it, it's intense. Pleasant fountains, lovely things, kind people. He talked about this deep sense of the quality and promise of heart's desire.
Like everything you could possibly want. He even saw his whole life in a book there.
He did, yeah, before this sort of somber, dark woman led him away. So the garden, it represents this completely different path, deep fulfillment, a different reality almost.
But the real kicker, the thing that makes the story work, is that it wasn't just once. He saw this door again and again.
That's the core of it. He saw it throughout his life. And every single time he had to choose.
Right.
The very first time he saw it again, he was just a kid, maybe 8 or 9, playing a game on his way to school. He spots the door, feels the pull.
Awkward.
But his overmastering determination to get to school won. He figured, I can always come back later.
The sensible choice, right.
Okay.
Duty, the known path. And did that have consequences?
Well, yeah. First off, he told a schoolmate about it and got mocked. Then he couldn't find the door again when he tried to show others. He started thinking maybe sharing the secret made it disappear. And it apparently threw him off his studies for a while.
Okay, so fast forward.
Later, yeah,
Yeah.
17, he's in a cab heading to Oxford, crucial scholarship appointment, and he sees it again. Just a glimpse.
Another choice.
Another choice. He felt that pull, that double and divergent movement of will, an impulse to just stop the cab.
But he didn't.
He didn't. The appointment, the ambition, it felt more important. And he really regretted that later. He says something like, that which is lost that way is not found by seeking.
Oof. Like some chances just don't wait around.
Exactly. And it kept happening, rushing to his dying father's bedside. The claims of life were imperative, as he put it.
Always something practical, something urgent.
Always. But the most painful one he talks about happened just a week before he's telling this story to Redmond. He's leaving a political dinner, literally about to secure that cabinet post he'd worked his whole life for.
And he sees the door.
He sees the door. Again.
And this time.
This time, he says, 1,000 inconceivably petty worldlinesses weighed with him. Ambition, reputation, all the practical stuff. He chose the career. Again.
Wow. And the result of that choice.
Just crushing regret. He feels like his chance is gone for good. All that success he chased, now it feels vulgar, tawdry, irksome. He's just eaten up by these inappeasable regrets.
That's heavy.
Yeah, he talks about wandering at night, lamenting, losing this path to peace and to delight, into a beauty beyond dreaming, a kindness no man on earth can know. Just intense loss.
And how does it end for him?
Tragically, he's found dead. In an excavation site near a station, apparently walked through an unlocked door in a construction hoarding.
So, the narrator, his friend, is left wondering.
Exactly. Was the garden real? Was Wallace hallucinating? Was it just a horrible accident? Maybe in his despair, he mistook the hoarding door for the door.
Or something else. The narrator kind of leans towards believing Wallace had some kind of abnormal gift, right?
He does, yeah. But the story leaves it open. What it really hammers home, though, is how final some choices feel.
Hmm.
It makes you think, how often do you face those little moments, those hints of a different path, maybe something less practical but more fulfilling?
Yeah.
And how often do we just automatically pick the familiar route, the ambitious one, because it's what's expected? Is there a cost to always doing that?
Definitely makes you reflect on those potential what ifs,
Yeah,
the doors you maybe didn't even pause at because something else felt more urgent, that lost heart's desire.
precisely.
Okay, so shifting from those sort of internal mischances, let's get into how perception itself can totally shape reality.
Uh-huh.
Let's talk the country of the blind. This one's set in the Lost Valley, right? Cut off by an earthquake?
Yeah, completely isolated. And over generations, some disease meant everyone born was blind, totally blind.
But they adapted.
Amazingly so. The valley itself was pretty easy to live in. Food, water, no predators. So they developed incredible hearing and touch. They learned to navigate, build things, use fire. They knew their valley marvelously, the story says, the outside world. Just a myth to them.
Until Nunez falls in, a mountaineer who can see.
Right. He survives the fall, finds this place he'd heard legends about, and his first thought is that old saying, "In the country of the blind, the one-eyed man is king."
He figures he'll be running the place in no time.
He really does. But it completely backfires. The villagers find him, sense him by sound, feel his face and clothes.
And they think he's the weird one.
Totally. His skin's rough, his eyes are just these strange, useless dents in his face. To them, sight isn't a sense, it's a defect, a flaw. His attempts to explain seeing, the sky, the mountains, they think he's delirious, maybe making stuff up.
Wicked levity, they call it.
Yeah, like he's just being nonsensical or even blasphemous. They literally believe their valley has a smooth rock roof over it. The sky he describes is just a hideous void to their understanding.
So his gift is useless there. Worse than useless.
Pretty much. He tries to prove it, like predicting someone's coming down a path. But then the guy changes direction by chance, and Nunez just looks foolish and kind of threatening.
Right. He even tries to use force. Grabs a spade.
He does, thinks he can show his superiority that way, but he just can't bring himself to actually hit a blind person.
Yeah.
It's not a fair fight.
So they chase him off.
Yeah, guided by sound. He panics. It feels like playing blind man's buff, but he's the only one who can see, and it's still impossible. He escapes the village for a bit.
And starts to rethink that whole king idea.
Definitely. He realizes the proverb is just wrong. His sight is a liability here, not an advantage.
But he goes back.
Eventually, yeah, he's nursed back to health, starts learning their ways, trying to fit in. And it's interesting, the story says the outside world starts to feel unreal to him after a while.
He adapts. And then there's a love story.
Yeah, this is where it gets really complex. He falls for one of the women, Medina Sarote. He tries telling her about sight, the stars,
And she thinks it's pretty, but
still basically a symptom of his illness, his confusion, that wicked levity again.
okay, so then comes the big choice. The elders have a proposal.
Right. They figure they can cure him, perform an operation to remove his eyes, these irritated things that cause him to spout nonsense. Then he'll be reasonable, just like them.
And he can marry Medina Saroche.
Exactly, and she desperately wants him to do it so they can be together properly in her world.
Wow. So give up his sight, his connection to everything he knew, his unique quality, just to belong, to be loved.
That's the dilemma. It's brutal. Give up who you fundamentally are or remain an outsider forever, even from the person you love.
The story shows him struggling, right?
Yeah.
He almost goes through with it.
He does. There's this moment just before the planned operation. He's looking at her face, saying goodbye to her visible form.
Huh.
But then the morning comes. He sees the dawn light over the mountains, and it all comes flooding back the memory of the outside world, the vastness, the sea, the sky.
And he chooses escape.
The text heavily implies it, yeah.
Yeah.
He looks at the mountains, seeing a possible route out. He chooses his sight, his connection to that larger world, over belonging in the valley.
It's such a powerful story about conformity, isn't it?
Yeah.
How much our communities define what's normal or valuable.
Absolutely. And that question, what happens when something core to you is seen as a flaw by everyone around you? That tension between being authentic and that very human need to fit in, to be loved.
Makes you wonder about our own blind spots or sights in different contexts. What we value that others might dismiss, or vice versa.
Definitely.
Okay, so from perception and belonging, let's switch gears a bit. Let's look at how powerful external things, like technology and industry, can become settings for some really dark human stuff. We've got the Lord of the Dynamos and the Cone.
Right. Lord of the Dynamos first. It plunges us straight into this incredibly noisy, overwhelming dynamo shed. Big, powerful machines.
And the focus is on Azumazi, A stoker.
Yeah, a Malo stoker. And he's getting bullied pretty badly by his foreman, a guy named Holroyd.
And amidst all this noise and stress, Azumazi starts seeing the biggest dynamo differently.
Very differently, not as a machine. He sees it as alive, powerful, serene even, like a god.
Oh.
Way more powerful than the Buddhas he knew. He gets completely fascinated by its sound, its movement.
So he starts worshiping it.
Pretty much, yeah. He starts bowing to it, whispering prayers, asking it to save him from Holroyd. He even sees a gleam of light on it as a sign, like, okay, I accept your service.
Wow. And this is maybe driven by the environment, the stress.
The story suggests that, yeah, the constant noise, the heat, the bullying, maybe some underlying superstition, it all kind of brews together into this delusion. After Holroyd abuses him again, Azumazi whispers to the machine, "Thou seest, O my lord."
Like the machine is watching.
Exactly. He feels it's watching, waiting for Holroyd's wickedness to be ripe. He even starts hearing the machine's noises as words, like it's talking to him.
This sounds like it's heading somewhere bad.
It really is. His distorted view leads him to believe the Dynamo wants a sacrifice. Holroyd.
Oh, no.
He lures Holroyd close to the machine, asks this chilling question, will it eat a man, Sahib?
And that,
Then he shoves him into the moving parts.
geez, what happens then?
Well, another worker sees it happen and runs off screaming for help. Azumazi he's described as scared, but also kind of elated. He quickly makes up a story that Holroyd slipped, committed suicide.
Does anyone buy that?
The scientific manager who shows up does, or at least he accepts it readily. His main concern is just getting the dynamo running again for the trains. Functionality over humanity.
So Azumazi gets away with it.
Seems like it. He's left feeling like his god favored him, killed Holroyd swiftly and pitilessly, while the manager is just focused on the machine. Quick death, okay, let's get it going again.
That's a really stark contrast, the sort of religious, personal view of the technology versus the purely practical one.
It really is. It shows how extreme environments and desperation can just twist reality. And it makes you think about our own relationship with powerful tech. Does it ever feel like more than just tools?
Yeah, it taps into something unsettling, how these powerful systems can become stages for violence.
Which maybe brings us to the cone. Yeah, the cone. This one starts right off painting this industrial landscape as Gehenna, basically hell. Ironworks. Fire.
And we meet Rao and a woman and her husband, Horrocks, who runs the place.
Right. And the story quickly establishes there is an affair going on between Rao and the woman. They're talking secretly. She's complaining Horrocks has no heart, no poetry.
And Ross says something ominous.
Yeah, something chilling like, an end comes tomorrow.
And then Horrocks just appears.
Suddenly. And he clearly knows. The tension just spikes. Ra tries to lie, says he just came to see the works at night, but Horrocks sees right through it.
And Horrocks takes charge.
Completely. He's silent, menacing. He basically forces Ra on this tour of the ironworks, furnaces, mills, canals, but it's not friendly. He's got a grip on Roat's arm, twisting it, intimidating him.
There's that bit near the railway track too, right? Ambiguous.
Yeah, where it seems like Horrocks might push him, then pulls him back. Was it a warning? A cat and mouse game? It adds to the dread.
But the real focus is the blast furnace.
Yeah.
And the cone.
Exactly. Horrocks leads him up there, and he gets very specific, very chillingly detailed about the heat of the cone mechanism at the top. 300 degrees centigrade, he says. Enough to boil the blood out of you in no time.
You can see where this is going.
Yeah. They're on this narrow rail 70 feet up. Rot is terrified, trembling, and Horrocks just shoves him onto the cone.
Oh, go.
Rot's burning, trying to hold onto a chain, screaming.
Oh, cool.
Horrocks stands there, looking down, shouting curses at him. Fizzle, you fool! Fizzle, you hunter of women! Boil, boil, boil! He even throws lumps of coal down at him.
That is brutal. Just pure vengeance played out using the industrial machinery.
Absolutely. It's this raw, primal, human drama, jealousy, rage, murder happening right inside the mechanical heart of industry. The contrast is incredibly stark.
It really shows how these powerful everyday systems we build can become arenas for our darkest impulses. Okay, moving from those intense personal dramas within industrial settings, let's broaden the scope. Let's look at stories with huge cosmic events or strange endings that really shift perception, starting with the star.
Right. The star kicks off with the vastness of space, and then, bam, something new appears. Unexpected. A celestial body.
And people start noticing it.
Yeah, astronomers detect it first, then everyone sees it getting brighter, bigger. The awful realization hits. It's getting closer.
And someone figures out what's happening.
A master mathematician, the story calls him. He calculates it's Neptune, which somehow merged with this incoming object, and it's heading towards the sun. But Jupiter's gravity is going to slingshot it right past Earth. Close enough for total catastrophe.
What kind of catastrophe?
The works: earthquakes, volcanic outbreaks, cyclones, sea waves, floods, and a steady rise in temperature. Basically, end of the world stuff.
How do people react to that prediction?
It's fascinatingly mixed. You get panic, prayer, people trying to flee, but you also get a lot of denial, skepticism, people influenced by history, past scares that came to nothing, and just the fact that nothing like this has ever happened.
So common sense kicks in.
Exactly. The story says common sense was sturdy everywhere, scornful. People found it easier to disbelieve than to face something so huge and unprecedented. Newspapers downplayed it too.
But the mathematician was right.
Horrifyingly right. Over just 5 days, as this thing sweeps past, the impacts are global and devastating. Massive floods, coasts wiped out, huge tidal waves like 50 feet high rolling across continents, volcanoes erupting, lava reaching the sea, and the heat just keeps building.
And then the star itself does something weird in the sky.
Yeah, for the survivors who can see it, there's this strange cosmic event. The star rises late in Europe. The moon actually passes in front of it for a bit, and then as it flies away from Earth, it seems to merge with the sun right overhead before vanishing into it.
Wow. And the aftermath.
Chaos. Torrential rains turning everything to mud. Earthquakes continuing. But the story's final punchline is perspective.
How so?
It shifts to Martian astronomers looking at Earth through their telescopes. And this entire cataclysm, this near-extinction event for humanity, to them, it just looks like a minor shrinkage of the white discoloration, supposed to be frozen water, round either pole.
So our entire world ending is just a blip on their map.
Pretty much. It's incredibly sobering. It hammers home, first, how would we really react to a predictable existential threat? Our instinct seems to be denial.
Yeah.
And second, how scale just changes everything.
Yeah.
What's monumental to us is utterly insignificant from a cosmic distance.
Makes you feel small. Okay, for a completely different kind of transformation, let's look at a moonlight fable. This one sounds quieter.
Much quieter, yeah.
Yeah.
It's about this little man and a suit of clothes he owns, a perfect suit. He thinks it's incredibly beautiful, precious.
And he feels he has to wear it one night.
Yeah, this strange compulsion. He had no doubt in the matter, the story says. Even though he feels afraid, terribly afraid, he also feels intensely glad.
So he puts it on and goes out into his garden, under the moonlight.
Exactly. And the moonlight just transforms everything. Through his eyes, the world feels warmer, bigger, closer. Ordinary things become magical.
Like what?
Like the moonlight making silver patterns everywhere, dewdrops looking like jewels. His duck pond isn't just a pond anymore. It's a great bowl of silver moonshine, alive with singing frogs, and he sees the moonlight and stars somehow netted in the water.
So his perception is totally altered.
Completely heightened. He even talks to a moth, sees it as a friend, asks if it thinks his clothes are beautiful like the night. The moth brushes his lips, this moment of strange connection.
But the ending is less magical.
Objective ending, yeah. He's found dead the next morning in a stone pit, broken neck. His beautiful suit is stained with muck from the duck pond.
Oh.
But TD, and this is the key, his face shows such happiness. So the implication is clear. He died happy. In his final moments, falling, landing in the muddy pond, he didn't perceive the grim reality. He was still in that transformed state. He saw the duckweed not as pond scum, but as cool and streaming silver.
Wow, so perception literally created his reality right up to the end.
Exactly. It's this poignant idea about the power of our inner state to make the mundane magical, or maybe even to find profound joy in an experience that objectively is tragic. Can a moment of intense perceived beauty be worth, well, everything?
Makes you wonder about the reality filters we all use.
It does. A reminder that transformation isn't always external.
Okay, one more transformation story, but a very different kind. The Diamond Maker. This sounds more grounded.
It starts grounded, yeah. The narrator meets this guy on the embankment in London, looks totally broke, destitute, but has this intelligent spark in his eyes.
And the guy tells his story.
He does. Says he spent 15 years, every penny he had, obsessed with one thing, figuring out how to make big, perfect diamonds artificially.
Like alchemy, but with carbon.
Pretty much. He talks about the science crystallizing carbon under massive pressure, needing the right conditions.
That's a bit tough.
Incredibly tough. He describes living in poverty, surrounded by dangerous chemical apparatus, explosions happening, reading up on the few others who'd tried. waiting literally 2 years for his crystals to form in one experiment, nearly starving the whole time. Just absolute single-minded dedication.
But he succeeds.
He does. Against all odds, he manages it. He finds these diamonds in his crucible, 3 big ones, 5 smaller ones, worth, he reckons, several £100,000. Life-changing wealth.
Finally. Payoff.
You'd think so. But here comes the brutal irony. His success is his downfall.
How?
His secretive lab, the strange noises, the chemicals. His neighbor gets suspicious and thinks he's running a Kentish town bomb factory, calls the cops.
Oh, no.
He has to flee, instantly becomes a suspected terrorist or anarchist. He tries to sell the diamonds, but legitimate jewelers just look at him, his ragged clothes, these giant perfect diamonds, and they call the police.
You can't even cash them in.
Nope. One shady receiver he goes to manages to trick him and steal one of the big ones. So he's left completely broke, hungry, wandering the streets.
With a fortune in his pocket he can't use.
Exactly. A fortune that's made him a fugitive, an outcast, instead of rich and successful.
That's a biting commentary on ambition, isn't it?
It really is. What's the real cost of chasing one goal so relentlessly, especially outside the normal system? Achieving it doesn't guarantee success. It can have these completely unexpected, ruinous consequences.
The ultimate irony, creating immense value that's totally useless to you and actually makes your life worse.
It forces you to question what value or success even means and whether radical innovation outside the lines can ever really integrate.
Wow. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. Enchanted gardens, blind valleys, godlike dynamos, fiery furnaces, cosmic doom, moonlit ponds, and useless diamonds.
Quite the journey. We've gone from Wallace's missed doors, Nunez's struggle to belong, the dark side of industry, huge external threats, internal transformations, right through to the pitfalls of ambition.
And these stories, all drawn from the sources we looked at, they really do offer some striking, sometimes pretty uncomfortable perspectives, don't they? On the choices we make, how we see the world.
Yeah, and the power of things like ambition or just plain fate or circumstance.
They really highlight how something valuable in one situation, sight, success, power, money, can be totally meaningless or even a curse in another.
That's a key theme, definitely.
And maybe the biggest takeaway for me is the power of perception itself. How our internal state can literally create beauty or horror, find meaning or slip into madness, sometimes almost independent of what's actually out there.
Absolutely. The mind is a powerful lens.
So as you, our listener, go about your day after hearing this, maybe pause and think, are there any unexpected doors maybe presenting themselves in your own life? Perhaps hidden behind the usual walls of routine or what you think you should be doing?
Yeah, or what realities might you be filtering out or maybe misinterpreting based on your own assumptions? Or maybe based on the norms of the particular valley you happen to be in right now.
And what does that idea of heart's desire, like Wallace lost, what does that really look like when you stack it up against all the practical pressures and maybe the unforeseen consequences the world throws at you?
Lots to chew on there.
Definitely. Keep exploring, keep questioning.